right, welcome to the second impressions video, third video overall. Honestly, this is more impressions than we usually do in a week. But
you have no one to blame but yourself.
There were originally supposed to be 3, but my game wasn't working properly. Driver issue. Or no, that was next week. I'm thinking of. Anyway, up this time is Don't Die Minerva. Help Minerva survive her adventure in a haunted house full of sinister ghosts. The spooky roguelite features heaps of procedurally generated dungeons, ghosts, and loot. So I suppose a note before we get started here. This has actually been in our possession for a number of years at this point. Like, looking at the records, I originally got the code in 2020. But originally shelved it because, we had a much more stringent stance on early access back then. And things like this are why that was the case. It's just, eventually we just got too many early access things for us to ignore them anymore. So this is a bit of housekeeping, let's say. Because it's still in early access, it's still for sale, but it hasn't been updated since what, 2021?
Something like that, yeah. It has not been updated in a long time.
So
the new Steam alert for those things says 4 years.
So Yalix was selected to cover this.
So yes, you are a girl named Minerva, apparently. You are going up a tower full of ghosts and fighting them to gain essence crystals for the creepy headless statue butler guy in order to hopefully get out. You're mostly Luigi's Mansioning it with a... Okay, well, the default main weapon is a flashlight. There are alternate things, including a 2 different like energy ball shooters, a straight up Ghostbusters proton pack, a kind of grenade launcher thing, and you also get one at the start. You can unlock the ability to have 2 allies, which are, I forget what they call them, that are they're stuffed animals basically, but the default one that you get is a monkey, which is basically a turret. There are other ones that you can pick up, like a bee that flies around in radius, a dragon that flies around and shoot things. I saw but did not actually pick up a bear, which I don't know what it does. As is often the case with roguelite games, a lot of stuff is not super descriptive of how it works perfectly before you get it. So yeah, the play is you start under this one building. I'm not sure if the one building is the only one that's in the game yet. I made it to the first boss on like my 3rd run, and that's as far as I got. But yes, you go to different rooms. The rooms have various enemies in them. They generally lock and you have to defeat all the enemies, but they stay defeated, and anything that drops that you don't pick up stays on the floor. One of the permanent upgrades you can learn is the ability to recycle it for currency. There are many different possible upgrades. There are your primary weapon, your companions. There are elemental gems for physical, fire, cold, and electric that you can apply to your weapon and your companions. I really only played around with a couple of them. Electric tends to make arcs that go to other things beyond the initial guy you hit. Cold slows things down and can eventually stop them, form a crystal, and they explode. Fire does damage over time and drops a bomb. And physical pushes things away. You also have boots, a necklace, and a backpack that all variously affect your stats and can be of various levels and rarities, as can the weapons and gems. Petty found the upgrade room, which is technically an elevator back down to the creepy version of the entrance area, and took it way before he had a significant amount of currency to spend, so he's probably not going to be able to do anything with it. As far as I can tell, like, at least in the plans for the game, there are definitely at least 2 other towers that you can go up. But I don't know if those are implemented because this game is still in early access. There are also like other various warnings about that. Like apparently there's some bugs that can crash the game and stuff. I did not run into any of those, but like be forewarned. So yeah, you have a main weapon. You also have a melee option, which can also you can get alternate versions of. There are regular rooms that just have enemies to kill. There are challenge rooms that have a lot of enemies to kill. There are trap rooms that have like traps and also some enemies to kill. There are treasure rooms that have rarer chests or really huge chests that give 3 things. You don't have to choose between the 3. You can get all 3 of them if you can hold all of them. They're usually the same kind of thing, so you can't like actually have all of them, but once you get the recycling thing, you can recycle the ones you don't have. So mostly you're making your way through the environment and killing all the enemies to find. Every floor has an upgrade room, which is the blood elevator that goes back down to the creepy version of the lobby, where you can buy things from the merchant and invest your essence gems. Why didn't you take any of those? Those are probably better than what you have.
I did. I swapped for the better monkey that did more DPS.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't notice that. Because it's the same kind.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then you're also looking for the elevator to the next floor. The first boss is on the 3rd floor. If you die, you start over. There are some of the permanent upgrades you can do. Let you bring some money or essence back to the start with you. Which you can either invest the essence like normal, or you can, with the money, you can buy some stuff to start your run with, which is better than, you know, a basic flashlight that does barely anything and a monkey that's pretty weak. One of the upgrades is also, instead of always starting with a monkey in the elevator, you start with a random companion. So all of this, and you have a dodge roll to go faster, foot speed and dodge roll, and chance to automatically dodge attacks and stuff, and damage resistance and hit points are all things that various upgrades that you can get can affect. Each floor has a slightly different aesthetic. There is a mini map, by the way, Petty Fan.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at that and it's just awkward.
Another one of the early upgrade. Yeah, the fact that it's diagonal is a little bit weird.
That's what's throwing me off. Yes.
But the actual map is diagonal. Like the general position is diagonal. So. Yeah. So that's the general gameplay flow: is kill all the enemies to advance. I've actually been playing Dead Cells a bit recently, and it's sort of a similar game flow, except you're, in 2D, or you're in 3D overhead instead of being side-scrolling. Although there's a lot less of an option to sneak by enemies and not engage with them until later in this one. You also don't know what's in the room until you see it, and sometimes when you open a room, it bumps you a bit far forward into the room, and you might take some damage before you can really react. Not a huge fan of that. If I had any faith in the developers, finishing the game, I would suggest them to tighten that up.
Mm-hmm.
Each floor has a somewhat different aesthetic, and the enemies change based on what level you're at. There are a lot of the permanent upgrades. Like some of them unlock like an entire mechanic, like there are cauldrons with potions with various effects that I did not manage to upgrade in the amount of time I played. So yeah, that's well, you go to the boss and then you presumably progress through the game, and I'm sure as a run-based game, even if you get to the end, you probably just start over. I don't know if there's any deep lore. The aesthetic is fairly nice, although the graphics are decent. Like, they're not like amazingly high definition or anything, but I don't mind that. The aesthetic is good enough. Music is pretty good generally, just like creepy music. I had it down fairly low because I was listening to other stuff while I was doing it too. So yeah, it's a little bit janky and obviously significant warning about the fact that we have no idea what the devs are up to, and if they intend to take this from where it is to a finished game. Also, I can't promise that it doesn't just end at an awkward point, since it is early access, and there's not really much in the way of writing on the subject, but I actually had a pretty good time with this. So, I don't know if I can recommend giving them money, though, considering the current status. But I think it is a fairly competent and enjoyable experience. What are they charging for this, Adam?
$13?
That might be a bit high. I don't know. Again, I don't know how much of it there is, and it's early access, and again, there's a big question mark on, like, should you give the devs of this any money?
Well, see, I can answer that question a bit better because I'm looking at the early access notes. How is the full version planned to differ from the early access version? All the core gameplay systems are represented in the initial release, but the full version will include much more in terms of features and content. The core gameplay won't change drastically, but the game will be significantly bigger and hopefully a lot better, with new levels, biomes, more visual variety within the existing levels, new enemies, new bosses, new weapons and friendlies, the stuffed animals, new unlocks and abilities, player stat tracking, more systems that focus on exploration, additional difficulty levels.
Oh yeah, there are difficulty levels that you can select from, which is pretty unusual for this kind of game. At the start, you can select from normal or easy, which decreases enemy damage and increases health refill drops. I don't know. I don't think this game has a developed enough system that you get penalized for that. And then there are 2 harder difficulties that don't even tell you what's harder about them until you can do them, and you have to beat the game on normal before you can do that.
So the issue is we're not sure how much of this got added before the game, we're presuming, has been abandoned, because the early access period was apparently supposed to last about 6 months to a year.
The devs have another
Literally-
game too that apparently they abandoned for a while and then ended up releasing at some point. But so yeah,
Well,
but I have no idea.
Okay, so that was Lichdom Battle Mage, but they also had a third early access title, and that one has disappeared. So I'm not exactly sure what's keeping this on the Steam store, but it is still on the board, so to speak.
So
It's
yeah,
just,
I don't know. It's maybe a little bit high for something that's as incomplete as it is, but I still had a pretty good time generally.
Mm.
So if you
My
are
opinion-
into this, if you are into this kind of game, it's probably not the worst thing to play. But again, I don't know how much I want to say it's okay to condone this borderline abandoned development project for devs. So
yeah, I'm going to flat out say don't get this on principle. I'm like, we know this game hasn't been updated in 4 years. That is, that's too fucking long.
Yeah, I don't think I would really recommend getting it, but it is what's there is fun enough for me. So I don't know.
All right, so I think that'll about be everything we want to say about Don't Die Minerva. Yeah, I don't see us ever revisiting this unless the devs pull a miracle and actually update.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so yeah, be sure to tune in after the break as we review Lit.